In the dark tunnels beneath Haven's Rest space station, Kiktal moved slowly through the narrow pipes. His four thin arms worked without stopping, cleaning dust and fixing broken parts. The air was thick and hard to breathe, but Kiktal was used to it. All Kethver were used to it. The Kethver were small creatures, no taller than a human child. Their skin was gray and hard like old metal. They had big round eyes that could see in the dark, and thin fingers that could fix the smallest broken things for as long as anyone could remember. They lived in the bottom parts of the station, doing all the work that others did not want to do. Above them, the station was bright and clean. The Vorthok walked there with their long legs and proud faces. They made all the important choices. The Balkani soldiers moved through the halls with their thick armor and big weapons. They kept everyone safe. The ethereal traders floated around, like ghosts, buying and selling things from faraway worlds. But the Kethver stayed below. They fixed the lights when they broke. They cleaned the air that everyone breathed. They made sure water flowed to every part of the station. Without them, Haven's Rest would stop working in just a few days. But nobody thought about that. Nobody ever said thank you. Kiktal had been doing this work since he was very young. His parent group had done the same work before him. Their parent group had done it before that. It was just the way things were. Kethver worked. Others lived. Today felt different though. Kiktal could not say why, but something felt strange in his chest. As he crawled through pipe section 7, he saw a small room he had never noticed before. The door was old and covered in dust. He had passed this place 1,000 times, but today he stopped. The door was not locked. Inside, there were old boxes, stacked on top of each other. They looked very old, from when the station was first built. Most were empty or full of broken things. But one box was different. It had strange writing on it that Kiktal could not read. Inside this box, under layers of old cloth, was something that made Kiktal's eyes go wide. It was a flat piece of metal with words carved into it. His translator, a small device all station workers had to wear, began to glow. Slowly, the strange marks became words he could understand. All beings are created equal. Kikto read the words again. Then again, they did not make sense. Equal. What did that mean? Equal to who? The Vorthok were tall and smart. The Balkani were strong and brave. The ethereal could do things that seemed like magic. What could the Kethver ever be equal to? He turned the metal plate over in his hands. It felt important, though he did not know why. The metal was not like anything used in the station now. It was older, made by hands that had touched it with care. Someone had made this thing because the words mattered to them. Kiktal had never owned anything before. Everything he used belonged to the station. His tools, his clothes, even the small space where he slept. But this felt different, like maybe it could be his. A sound in the tunnel made him jump. Heavy footsteps were coming his way. Quickly, Kiktal put the metal plate inside his work bag and closed the old box. He crawled back into the main tunnel just as a Balkani guard walked by. The guard looked down at him with cold eyes. "You bug thing, why are you not working?" "This one was fixing the air filter in section 7, Kiktal said quietly, looking at the ground. It was not safe to look directly at the bigger species. Work faster. The Vorthok Council wants all repairs done by tomorrow." The guard kicked at a tool that had fallen from Kiktal's bag, then walked away. Kiktal picked up his tool and kept working, but his mind was not on fixing pipes anymore. The words kept repeating in his head. All beings are created equal. What kind of person would write such a thing? What kind of world would they come from? That night, in the small sleeping area he shared with 12 other Kethver, Kiktal lay awake. Around him, his people slept on thin mats, tired from another long day of work. Some had scars from accidents. Others coughed from breathing bad air for too many years. But they never complained. Complaining was not allowed. Kiktal pulled the metal plate from under his mat and looked at it again in the dim light. The words seemed to glow, though that was probably just his imagination. He traced each letter with his finger, trying to understand what they really meant. For the first time in his life, Kiktal began to wonder if things could be different. Not just for him, but for all his people. The thought was scary and exciting. At the same time, it was like standing at the edge of a deep hole and thinking about jumping, not knowing what was at the bottom. He did not know it yet, but everything was about to change. The human ship looked different from others that came to Haven's Rest. It was smaller and had smooth lines instead of sharp edges. When it docked at Port 7, many creatures stopped to watch. New visitors always brought excitement to the station. Captain Jin Lee stepped off his ship and looked around. He was tall for a human, with kind eyes and gray hair. Behind him came Dr. Park Hannah, a woman with quick movements and a big smile. They had traveled very far to reach this place. "Welcome to Haven's Rest," said Administrator Vorthak. He was a Vorthok, which meant he was very tall and thin, with purple skin and a voice like cold wind. "We do not get many humans here. We are happy to be here," Jin said. "We have heard many good things about your station." As they walked through the main halls, Jin noticed how clean everything was. The floors shone like mirrors. The walls had no dust or marks. But something felt wrong. He could not say what, but his feelings told him to pay attention. They passed a small gray creature carrying a heavy box. The creature moved slowly because the box was almost as big as it was. When it got in the way of some Balkani soldiers, one of them pushed it hard with his foot. The small creature fell down, and its box broke open. Small metal parts scattered everywhere. Heijin said, moving toward the fallen creature. "Are you hurt?" The small being looked up with big round eyes. It seemed very surprised that someone was talking to it. Before it could answer, Administrator Vorthak stepped between them. "Please do not worry about that," the administrator said. "It is just a Kethper. They are used to this kind of work. Very clumsy, but they learn from mistakes." Dr. Park was already kneeling next to the scattered parts. She picked up a small device and looked at it carefully. "This is amazing work. Look at these connections. This is much better than our standard designs." "What?" Vorthak looked confused. "That is just basic maintenance equipment. Nothing special." The small creature, the Kethver, was picking up pieces with its 4 arms. Jin knelt down and helped gather the parts. The Kethver stopped moving and stared at him. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out. "What is your name?" Jin asked gently. The question seemed to shock everyone. The administrator made a noise like a cough. The Balkani soldiers looked confused. The Kethver's eyes got even bigger. This one is called Kiktal," the creature said in a very quiet voice. "Hello, Kiktal. I am Jin. This is Hannah." Jin smiled and held out his hand. "We are humans." Kikto looked at the offered hand like it might bite him. Very slowly, he reached out with one of his thin fingers and touched Jin's palm. His skin felt warm and rough from hard work. "We should continue the tour," Administrator Vorthak said. Quickly, his voice sounded angry. "The council is waiting to meet you." That evening, Jin and Hannah walked through the lower levels of the station. They wanted to see how the Kethver lived. What they found made them both feel sick. The Kethver lived in tiny rooms with no windows. 20 or more shared each space. They slept on thin mats on the floor. The air was bad, and the walls were wet with moisture. There was almost no light. "This is worse than a prison," Hannah whispered. They found Kiktal in a room full of broken machines. He was working by the light of a small torch, fixing something with tools that looked very old. When he saw them, he almost dropped what he was holding. "Please," he said, looking scared. "This one was not supposed to be in the upper levels today. This one will not do it again." "You did nothing wrong," Jin said. "We came to see you." "To see, this one." Kiktel's voice was so quiet, they could barely hear it. "Yes. We wanted to thank you for showing us your work today. That device you made was very smart. Kiktal stared at them. Smart, very smart. You took old parts and made them work better than new ones. That takes real skill. Other Kethfer had stopped working to listen. They moved closer, but stayed in the shadows. Jin could see dozens of round eyes watching from the darkness. Where we come from, Hannah said, people who can do what you do are called engineers. They are very respected. Respected, Kiktal said the word, like it was in a foreign language. Yes, people listen to their ideas. They get paid well for their work. They are important. The room was completely quiet now. Even the machines seemed to have stopped humming. But this one is just Kethfer, Kiktal said. You are just you, Jin said. And you matter. That night, after the humans left, Kik sat in his sleeping space holding the metal plate he had found. The words seemed different now. All beings are created equal. Maybe, just maybe, these words came from the humans. Maybe they really believed such things. For the first time in his life, Kiktal began to believe them too. The news spread through the dark tunnels like fire through dry grass. The humans were different. They looked at Kethfer faces when they talked. They asked questions. They said please and thank you. Some Kethfer thought it was a trick. Others were afraid. But many felt something they had never felt before. Kiktal could not stop thinking about what the humans had said. You matter. The words played in his mind while he worked, while he ate his small portion of food, while he tried to sleep on his thin mat. You matter. 3 days after meeting Jin and Hannah, Kiktal was fixing a water pipe when he heard voices above him. Through a small opening in the ceiling, he could see into one of the meeting rooms. Dr. Hannah was there, with 5 other humans. They were talking to a group of Kethfer. Kiktal had never seen Kethfer in a meeting room before. They sat on the floor because the chairs were too big, but they were there. Really there. Can you show us how you made this? Hannah was holding up a small machine that looked very complicated. An old Kethfer named Zikhan spoke. His voice shook, because he was not used to talking to other species. This one just put pieces together. Old pieces that others threw away. This is incredible work, said another human. You took broken parts and made something completely new. Something better than what we could buy new. Zikhan's compound eyes blinked fast. Better, much better. Look, the human pulled out a device that showed numbers and pictures. Your design uses half the power and works twice as fast as the standard model. Kiktal watched as something amazing happened. Zikhan sat up straighter. His voice got a little stronger. This one has ideas for making it even better. We would love to hear them, Hannah said. That evening, more humans came to the lower levels. They brought lights so the Kethfer could see better. They brought food that tasted better than the gray paste the Kethfer usually ate. But most importantly, they brought words. Jin sat on the floor with a circle of Kethfer around him. Kiktal was there, along with 40 others who had never been in the same room as an important person before. Where we come from, Jin said, we believe every person has rights. Rights? Asked a young Kethfer named Pikter. Things that belong to you just because you exist. The right to be safe. The right to have enough food. The right to choose your own work. The right to say what you think. The Kethfer looked at each other with confusion. These ideas were so strange they hurt to think about. But what if you are not smart enough? Asked Zikhan. What if you are too small or too weak? Size does not matter. Strength does not matter, said Dr. Hannah. What matters is that you are alive and you can think and feel. That makes you important. Kiktal pulled the metal plate from his bag. His hands shook as he showed it to Jin. This one found this. Does it come from humans? Jin looked at the plate and smiled. Yes, this is from our old government. It means that no person is worth more than any other person, even Kethfer, Pikter's voice was very small. Especially Kethfer, Jin said. You do all the work that keeps this station alive. Without you, everyone here would die in days. That makes you the most important people on this station. The words hit them like lightning. Important. They were important. Over the next weeks, things began to change in small ways. Kethver started walking with their heads up, instead of looking at the ground. They began talking to each other about their ideas, instead of working in silence. Some even started to smile. Kiktal found himself becoming someone others came to for advice. He did not know why, but other Kethvers seemed to trust him. Maybe it was because he had been the first to talk to the humans. Maybe it was because he always listened. The humans are teaching us things, Pictor said to him one day, but the Vorthok do not like it. They say we are forgetting our place. What is our place? Kiktal asked. To work, to serve, to stay quiet. Kikto looked around the maintenance tunnel where they were talking. He saw Kethver fixing machines they had designed themselves, machines that worked better than anything. The other species could make peace all people, solving problems that no one else could solve. Maybe our place is wherever we choose to be, he said. Word of this conversation reached the council. Administrator Vorthak was not happy. He called a meeting with Captain Jin. Your people are causing problems, Vorthak said. The Kethver are getting ideas above their station. They are asking questions, making demands. This cannot continue. What kind of demands? Jin asked. They want better food, better places to live. They want to be paid for their work, like the other species. It is ridiculous. Jin was quiet for a moment. It sounds reasonable to me. Reasonable. Vorthak's voice got very high. They are Kethver. They should be grateful we let them live here at all. They built this station, Jin said calmly. They keep it running. They deserve respect. That night, Kiktal sat with his people and felt something new growing in his chest. It was warm and strong and made him want to stand up tall. Later, he would learn that humans called this feeling pride, but first, he had to learn how to fight for it. The message came early in the morning, before the work shift began. All Kethver were to report to the main assembly hall immediately. No tools, no personal items. Just come. Kektal felt his stomach turn cold. Around him, other Kethver whispered, nervously. They had never been called to the main assembly hall before. That was a place for important people, not for them. When they arrived, they found Balkani soldiers standing along the walls. Their weapons were not drawn, but their hands rested on them. In the center of the room stood Administrator Vorthak and the full council. Their faces were angry. The humans have filled your small minds with dangerous ideas, Vorthak said. His voice echoed in the big room. You have forgotten your purpose. You have forgotten your place. Behind the council, Kiktau could see the human ship through a large window. But something was wrong. The ship was moving away from the docking port. The humans are leaving, Vorthak continued. They will not return. And you will return to your proper roles. But first, you need to remember why you serve. The soldiers stepped forward. Kiktal felt the Kethver around him move closer together, like small animals hiding from a storm. You will work longer hours. You will eat less food. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not gather in groups. You will remember that you exist only to serve your betters. An old Kethver named Kilvin raised one thin arm. Administrator, this one would like to ask, no questions. Vorthak's shout made everyone jump. No more questions. No more thinking. Just work. But something had changed in the weeks since the humans came. Kikto looked around at his people and saw something new in their eyes. Fear, yes, but also anger. And anger was something the Kethver had never allowed themselves to feel before. What if we say no? Kiktau's voice was quiet, but in the big room, everyone heard it. The soldiers raised their weapons. The council members stepped back. Vorthak stared at Kikto like he could not believe what he had heard. What did you say? Kikto's heart was beating so fast it hurt. But he thought about Jin's kind words. He thought about the metal plate with its strange message. He thought about all the years his people had lived in darkness, while others enjoyed the light above. This one said no. His voice was stronger now. We say no. You cannot say no, Vorthak laughed, but it did not sound happy. You do not get to choose. The humans taught us something, Kiktal said. Around him, other Kethfer were standing straighter. They taught us that every being has worth, even us. The humans are gone, Vorthak shouted. They abandoned you. But their words are still here, said Zikon. The old engineer stepped forward, and we remember what they said. We matter. More Kethfer began to speak. We built this station. We keep it running. Without us, you all die. Their voices grew stronger with each word. The soldiers moved forward, but Vorthak held up a hand. To stop them, you think you can rebel? You think you can fight us? You are nothing without our protection. Then we will be nothing somewhere else, Kiktal said. He pulled out a small device the humans had given him before they left. All Kethfer returned to the lower levels now. As they moved toward the exits, the soldiers tried to stop them, but there were thousands of Kethfer, and only dozens of soldiers. And the Kethfer knew every tunnel, every passage, every hidden way through the station within an hour. Every Kethfer had vanished from the upper levels. The next day the lights began to flicker. The air started to smell bad. Water stopped flowing. To some areas, the waste systems backed up. All the small things that kept the station running began to break down. Fix it, Vorthak ordered his soldiers. But the soldiers did not know how the systems worked. The ethereal traders tried to help, but they only understood their floating machines. The other Vorthok knew how to give orders, not how to follow the complicated tunnels and fix broken pipes. By the third day, the main power grid failed. Half the station went dark. The council called an emergency meeting by candlelight. Send a message to the Kethfer, said Councillor Mordak. Tell them we will negotiate. Negotiate. Vorthak's voice cracked. With servants. Look around, Mort, said Weir, sitting in darkness, because our servants are gone. Maybe it is time to admit that we need them more than they need us. In the tunnels below, Kiktal received the message. Around him, hundreds of Kethfer waited to hear what he would say. They had chosen him as their leader, though he still did not understand why. They want to talk, he told his people. What should we tell them? Asked Piketer. Kiktal looked at the metal plate he now carried everywhere. All beings are created equal. He finally understood what those words meant. We tell them that we are not servants anymore, he said. We are citizens, and citizens get to choose how they live. Above them, the station continued to fall apart, but below, the Kethfer had found something more valuable than all the technology in the galaxy. They had found themselves. 6 months later, the human ship returned to Haven's Rest, but Captain Jin Lee hardly recognized the place. Where once there had been dark lower levels, now there were bright workshops filled with the sound of building and creating. Where once, Kethfer had crawled through tunnels like shadows, now they walked openly through all parts of the station. Jin smiled as he stepped off his ship. The first person to greet him was Kiktal, but this was not the scared creature he had met before. This Kiktal stood tall and wore a simple silver band around his arm. His eyes were bright and confident. Captain Jin, Kiktal said, and his voice carried the sound of someone who was used to being heard. Welcome back to Haven's Rest. It looks very different, Jin said, looking around at the busy docking area. Kethfer worked alongside other species, talking and laughing together. What happened here? We learned something important, Kiktal replied. We learned that when you stop doing the work, people notice how much they need you. As they walked through the station, Jin saw the changes everywhere. The old dark tunnels had been turned into proper streets with good lighting. The tiny sleeping rooms were gone, replaced by real homes where Kethfer families could live with dignity. The workshops buzzed with activity as Kethfer engineers worked on projects that amazed visitors from across the galaxy. How did you do all this? Dr. Hannah asked. She had come back with Jin and could barely believe her eyes. "We remembered what you taught us," said Zekon, joining them. He now wore the clothes of a chief engineer, and other species listened carefully. When he spoke, "We remembered that we have value." They stopped at a large building that had not existed before. Through the windows, Jin could see Kethfer and other species sitting around tables, talking and making plans together. "The council building," Kiktal explained. "We built it after the old council agreed to share power. Now every species on the station has a voice in how things are run." "Even the Vorthok agreed to this?" Hannah asked. Kiktal's mandibles clicked. And what Jin had learned was Kethfer laughter. They agreed very quickly once the power stayed off for a week. It is amazing how reasonable people become when their lights do not work and their water does not flow. Inside the council building, Jin saw something that made his heart warm. There, hanging on the wall in a place of honor, was the metal plate Kiktal had found. All beings are created equal. But now, it was not alone. Around it were similar plates with the same message written in dozens of languages from across the galaxy. "We made copies," Kiktal explained. "Every species that comes here sees this message now, and some of them take copies home with them." "What do you mean?" Jin asked. "3 other species have contacted us," Victor said, appearing beside them. She now worked as the station's communication specialist. The Minari from the Outer Rim, the Sektar from the mining worlds, the Velini from the agricultural planets. All of them are servant species like we were. They heard what happened here. "What did you tell them?" Hannah asked. "We told them what you told us," Kiktal replied. "That nobody has the right to make you feel worthless without your permission. And that sometimes you need someone to believe in you before you can believe in yourself." That evening, Jin and his crew joined the Kethver for their evening meal. It was no longer the gray paste they had eaten before, but real food prepared by Kethver, who had discovered they were excellent cooks. The dining hall was full of laughter and conversation between all the species on the station. "I have to ask," Jin said to Kiktal as they ate, "why did your people choose you as their leader? What made you different?" Kiktal was quiet for a moment, thinking maybe because I was the one who found that old message, or maybe because I was the first to talk to you. But I think it was really because I asked a question that others were afraid to ask. "What question?" "What if we could be more than what others told us we were?" Kiktal pulled the original metal plate from his pocket and looked at it. "When I first found this, I did not understand it. The words seemed impossible, but you showed us they were not impossible. They were just ... forgotten." "And now?" Jin asked. "Now we remember, and we help others remember too." Kiktal looked around the room at his people, talking and laughing with species that had once looked down on them. "We are somebody now, and somebody has responsibilities." As Jin prepared to leave the next day, Kiktal walked with him to the docking bay. "Will you come back again?" Kiktal asked. "If you want us to. We want you to. You are our friends, and friends visit each other." Jin smiled and shook Kiktal's hand. The Kethver no longer flinched at the touch. "Take care of yourselves, and keep helping others. Remember who they are." "We will," Kiktal promised, "because that is what somebody does." As the human ship flew away, Kiktal returned to his duties. There was much work to be done. Messages to send to distant worlds. Plans to make for helping other forgotten species. A galaxy to change. One small step at a time. But they were not nobody anymore. They were somebody, and somebody could change the world.